Welcome, Solex Nation. It's great to be with you tonight. We have a few announcements that we want to make sure that you all are aware of. First off, we had a competition last week.
We did. We asked you to comment on last week's video, okay? And everybody that commented qualified to get a Alpha3 pass, right?
Absolutely.
211 of you commented. So 211 of you are going to get that pass loaded into your back office today or tomorrow. Isn't that awesome?
It is so
It's
awesome.
so cool.
And you will love them.
Yeah.
Also, we wanted to announce and remind you about the virtual event for the Legacy Group, June 10th. There's 2 hours of content you do not want to miss. So they'll be making some special announcements for those that are attending and listening. So if you do not have your Legacy coin, now's the time to get it so that you can participate in that virtual event.
We're almost out of the Legacy coins, but however, somebody's getting one today.
One of the ways to earn a coin is to be the top enroller. And we have a lot of active team members that are enrolling quite a few
That's right.
people. In fact, we have a tie for second place for our top enrollers for the week of March 14th through the 20th. One of those second place tie is Becky Coots Kimbley. Congratulations. And the other one is
Phoenix Rising. Congratulations, guys.
Yeah.
Great job.
Great job. Keep up the great work. However, we do have our top enroller for the week of March 14th through the 20th is Christina Freeman. Guess what you get?
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. You get a Legacy coin that we will send to you, and
tomorrow.
And you will be joining us in our virtual event in June. So congratulations, Christina.
Okay, should we get on with the call?
Let's get on with the call.
Okay.
Well, hello, Solex Nation. It's Beck McQuilty here, coming to you from the beautiful country of Australia. I wanted to share with you today a little bit about how you can enable receiving communication from our incredible corporate team. I know that I hadn't been receiving some of the emails and not getting some of the notifications, and I really wasn't quite sure why. So when I reached out to corporate, I thought I would do this little video for you just to make it super easy for you to ensure that you are getting the communication that you need, because corporate can't actually send us that communication without our permission. So I'm just going to quickly screen share for you and hop into my back office and show you right now how easy it is for them to be able to communicate with us. So all that we need to do is go down to our settings in our back office and go to communication, which it brings us to this screen right here. And in communication, we just need to make sure that everything is enabled. So whether you're wanting to receive it via text or email or whatever that looks like, just make sure you tick all the boxes. Now, the most important one, I feel, down here, if you're wanting to be a part of the team chat, you can enable that via text or email, but also to ensuring that you click on, these two really important buttons here, that corporate can contact me through text and that they can contact me through email. It's honestly as simple as that, guys. I wish I had have known that a little bit earlier, that I actually realized that, why I hadn't been contacted by corporate. So please make sure that that is enabled for you so that we can make sure that corporate are communicating with you when they need to. So have a wonderful day, and I'll catch up with you all again really soon. Bye-bye.
Hi everyone, Deb Durfey here. I just wanted to introduce to you Jake Watson. He is part of our creative team, and we are so glad to have him here at Solex. He has been a huge asset to our team, and he's been a big part of helping us with the Alpha3 passes. And today he is going to help us talk about some of the questions that we have received into customer support, and hopefully answer all those questions for you today. So Jake, what are some of the questions that you have heard about the Alpha3 passes?
Probably one of the biggest ones, I think, is what will it look like when my customer receives an Alpha3 pass?
Okay, great question. Because as we have the Alpha3 passes, and as you know, we access them by hitting the 3 bars in the upper right-hand corner of our program, and then it says Alpha Passes, Manage Alpha Passes. So when you go ahead and send one, you're going to put in a first name, a last name, and an email address. And as you hit submit, they will receive an email from you, and it's a beautiful email and colorful from Solex that has all of that information. All they need to do is click and activate. So don't be afraid to use those Alpha Passes. It's really awesome.
Oh, great. Yeah, that great explanation. I've heard that question so many times. And another one that I've had is, are you notified when a pass is activated? And are you notified when a pass expires?
Yes, and that's a really good question, because as it is, you have available, pending, and accepted. And once that is accepted, you will see on your screen that the Alpha Pass has been accepted and by who. So if you send all 6 out, you'll know which one's pending, which one's been accepted, which one's active, which one's expired, and all of that information is right there on your app. Yeah.
So what if you send out an Alpha3 pass and you change your mind? Can you revoke that? Revoke's a strong word. Can you take it back?
Yes, and the word we use in there is revoke. So let me give you an example. I actually sent one as a test to my husband, and I revoked it because I wanted to send it to somebody else. So I didn't tell him, but maybe he got an email. I'll check that out. However, you can hit revoke, and if they don't accept it within 10 days, guess what? Comes right back into your app so that you have access to be able to send it back or send it out to somebody else.
Cool, okay. So what if, can you resend a pass? So whatever circumstance that is, right? They don't accept it within the 10 days, or you revoke it, but then you change your mind again, and you can you send back a pass to somebody, to the same email?
So I tried that one too. And yes, as a matter of fact, you can, as long as they did not activate. So as long as they did not accept that email, click activate, then you can revoke it, or it can expire, come back into your app, and you can resend it to the same first and last name and the same email.
Cool.
But
okay.
if they do activate, you cannot send it again. So you can only send it to the email one time.
So once they activate, they have that 3 days.
Yep.
And they can't be resent. Okay, cool.
So you can't
Makes
get
sense.
sent more than
Makes sense.
one Alpha Pass per email, per person.
And so you explained really well what it looks like when a pass is activated or expired on your end, but what about with the customer? What will the Alpha3 pass look like when it expires for them?
So the customer will also get an email saying your pass has expired. And the beauty of it is to say, we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you have enjoyed using the program for 3 days. Click here to subscribe. And as they click on that bottom button that says subscribe now, it will immediately sign them up under whoever sent them the pass. So it's that easy. All they have to do is go in and click that button, and they can automatically activate and enjoy, not even miss a heartbeat if they do it quick enough.
Another interesting one that a question that I have is, so when you get on and accept your Alpha3 pass from the email, like the click start button to start the process, and you go up and you create your own profile,
That's the first thing you do.
That's, yeah. So once your 3 days are up and you decide, hey, I want to start this monthly subscription.
Yep.
Do I get to keep that same profile? Does it roll over? How does that work?
So that's a really good question that I had to ask our programmer. And he actually told me that as long as you use the same email that was sent to you or that you sent to your customer, as long as they use that same email, that profile will be in that AOScan app for them. So once they activate, set up an account and set up that monthly subscription using that exact same email, they can go into their AOScan app and they will see their profile already in there.
That's cool.
I think so too.
I love that.
I think that's cool too.
And another question, and it's starting to kind of wrap up, I think. I think you've done such a great job at answering all my questions. But so I have my phone, and I open up my email, set up the Alpha3 pass, and then later that day, I want to get on my computer and sign in. Can I do that? Can I sign in on multiple devices?
Love that question. So we researched into this too, and the answer is yes, as long as you have access to that email. Because your link to get into the AOScan app is from that email, to click to activate, or to get started, or to start it. All you have to do is access that email from your computer, from your phone. As long as you can access that email, you're in. So that easy.
Oh, that's super easy. It seems
right?
like it's just works with. It just is so easy to work with.
Super intuitive. Don't be afraid to share it. Man, this is such a great tool we have to share the AOScan with multiple people. Thousands, millions. Let's get it out there. Let's get our Alpha Passes shared with numerous people. Let them have that AOScan experience. Let them feel the difference between inner voice and the body systems and all the different scans, the Cephis. There's so much to learn and so much to enjoy from these scans. You might as well share it with the world, right?
Yeah, heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Let's do it.
Well, it's good to be back. Another week's gone by, and a whole lot more questions have come through from data discovery. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those questions that have come in. A lot of stuff, a lot of information came out in data discovery, and a lot to digest, and a lot of information that we could probably expound a little bit more on. That's kind of where I want to do today. One of the things that came up was about the Illuminator. And before I get into the Illuminator, I would like to just say thank you for being patient. You surprised the heck out of us. We did not anticipate the enthusiasm about the Illuminator that came through, and we got caught up in some of these supply chain holdups. And so we're moving as quickly as we can, but it's looking like within the next 2 to 3 weeks, all of the orders will be delivered. So thank you so much for your patience. I think you're going to find it's worth the wait. And on that note, let's talk a little bit about the Illuminator. One of the questions that came in is, okay, there's 4 settings of intensity on the Illuminator. When do I use those settings? Which ones would I use for what things? And it's really quite simple, and a little bit of history needs to come in on that first. When the Illuminator was first developed, and it was developed in the UK, it was developed for breast screening, for women to be able to do self-examination of their breast and see if they could find nodules or lumps or whatever. And it was very popular in the UK and in Europe, but never really caught on here. We came into the Illuminator, oh my word, it must be about 8, 9, maybe even 10 years ago. And again, it was at one of our medical conventions we'd gone to in China. And we bought them. I thought it was an amazing device for what it was developed for. And so I ended up buying them, not to sell to the public, but for the women in my life, my mom, my sisters, my friends, what a great way to be proactive in that aspect. And they all used it, and we saw great results. And then it started being tried on other things, like sore knees, sore elbows, sore necks, sore shoulders. And that's when we realized there was so much more applications that the Illuminator could be used for. And that's when we decided that we would introduce that as a product in our company. And so the settings for the different levels of intensity were developed for the purpose of the examining of the breast. Depending on the tissue and the density of the tissue in the breast, you would have to adjust the intensity to be able to see well and clearly the vessels and the lymphatic vessels and the little nodules. If you went too bright on some tissue, it would just kind of like expose a picture. You couldn't see the definition. And on some tissue, if it was too low, it didn't penetrate enough to see it. So those settings were strictly for the examining of the breast. And just real simple, and there will be some more information that comes out on this on how to use it for that purpose, but it's real simple. A woman would go into the bathroom, disrobe to the waist, turn off the lights, stand in front of the mirror, and then by positioning the Illuminator under and around the breast, you could eliminate and see where there were nodules and lumps, and it's an amazing tool. But for the rest of what I want to talk about is how it can be utilized for other than for breast illumination, and that is for pain, for facials, for skin eruptions. And on those settings, you'll always want to be at the highest. So everything else is at the highest setting. Always take it to the brightest. Now, when you're working with your face, around the face and around, particularly around the eyes, you'd want to put your finger or a spoon over the eye itself as you're working around the eye. Not that the light would damage the eye, but it would be uncomfortable for sure. And so just a little bit of protection over the eye and around your face. It's wonderful for like using serums like Bright or other types of facial creams that you want to really drive deep into the tissue and to help bring the collagen forward, to put your serum on and then use the Illuminator to help massage it in. And it's it's good to keep it moving around, and it will shut off between 2 and 3 minutes. And if you're not finished, you can always turn it back on. So let's go back again. When you're working with your face, with trying to drive nutrient into the face, you're going to want 2 to 3 minutes, and maybe do 2 or 3 minutes on one side and 2 or 3 minutes on the other side, but keeping it moving around gently and slowly, but on the skin. You don't want to be away from the skin. You want to be right on the surface of the skin, and just slow, gentle movements around. And again, when you're around your eye, put some protection over the eye itself, like putting your finger over your eye and then moving the Illuminator around. When you're using it for facials, you're going to want to go in the directions, like if you went in to have a facial done to help with wrinkles or sagging skin, you're always pulling the skin back, and so you're going to want to do the same with the Illuminator handle, is moving it in the direction that you would if you were doing a facial. Now, when you come into things like an elbow pain or a wrist pain, a knee pain, a hip pain, a back pain, you can use it without any lotions or creams. You can just use it just as the light itself. And there you might want to hold just a little bit longer in a place, or really slower motions around the areas that you're trying to work. If you are using pain creams or lotions or things like that, you're going to want to kind of do it in a little bit of a swirl motion over the area. But again, one of the questions that came up, do I put it right on the skin or do I hold it away? Red light therapy always needs to be right on the skin. Now, this is not the same as your chiropractor's red laser. Even though we use laser diodes, they're tuned to be a little bit wider of an angle of light, whereas an actual laser device that your chiropractor or doctor might use, that's a pinpoint, and that you would pull away from the skin just a little bit. But on the Illuminator, it is perfectly safe to go right on the skin, and it is actually more effective right on your skin. So right on the skin, slow, deliberate motions with that. There's some really good topicals for pain that you can get at your the markets that specialize in Oriental medicines. Some of the Chinese lotions and serums are wonderful for pain, and then to use the red light with that are amazing. And those you can get at your stores or on Amazon. So that's what I want to talk about on the Illuminator, and I think I've addressed the questions that have come in on that. So again, real quick, the settings the only time you'd change the settings is if you're doing a breast examination. All other applications would be at the highest setting. Slow, deliberate movements against the skin, and 2 to 3 minutes at a time in an area. Okay, so a great device. Use it, utilize it, and let us know what you think about the way you use it and how it's helped and benefited you. Your comments are always great and appreciated that way. All right, so the other thing we want to talk about a little bit, the questions that have come in are about the negative ions, the bracelets, the insoles, the necklaces, the different ways that we use the negative ions. Why are negative ions so important, and what are negative ions and what do they do? So you basically have two ions. You have a negative ion, which we talk a lot about, and you have a positive ion. Now there's a really good book. It's a simple book, easy read, short read, simple layman's terms. It's called The Ion Miracle. And you can get that book on Amazon. It literally is like a 1 to 2 hour read. It's not a big book and really simple, but I think you're going to find that it'll answer a lot of your questions in terms that are easy to understand. Now you can get into books that will go into more depth scientifically on the negative ions and their properties, but for a lot of people it's going to be way over your head as far as real interest and real practical use. But real basic, a positive ion is kind of like a rust. It's an oxidizer. It introduces oxidative stress into the body. It increases or accelerates the aging process. It's what we don't want. Negative ions are the opposite of that. Negative ions slow the aging process. They had been referred to as the vitamins in the air. Absolutely critical. You'll see some of the things here on the screen that negative ions are good for. Burns, longer life, better breathing, helps with things like asthma. So what a negative ion does is it attracts the positive ions. A positive ion will be drawn to a negative ion, and when that happens, the negative effects or the bad effects of a positive ion are mitigated. And so the more negative ions that we have around us, in the water that we drink, the air that we breathe, the environment that we're around, the better we are. The slower the aging process, the better the body responds to stress, that's particularly oxidative stress. So areas like when we live in the city or in a home that's full of Wi-Fi and cell phones and electricity and microwaves, these things produce an abundance in excess of positive ions. So the more negative ions that we can generate, it will help mitigate some of that, those positive ion effects. We cannot get away from those unless you want to move out into the woods next to a waterfall and not have a phone or any of the luxuries that we enjoy in life. And short of that, we've got to do other things. So I wear insoles, wear bracelets, have a water stick in my water. These types of things help introduce more negative ions in my body and around my body to help battle that positive ion bad effects. So the more of those you have, the more of the positive ions are going to be attracted to the negative ions and mitigated. So that's why it's so important. Again, real simple. Positive ions are bad, negative ions are good. I know that sounds backwards, but that's the way it is. And the more negative ions we have, the better health that we're going to enjoy, because we're mitigating and reducing the effects of positive ions. I encourage the book. It's a good read, simple read, and easy to understand. And in there you're going to hear some case studies, and these are more anecdotal type of case studies. These are not like scientific studies. Again, those are out there, and you can definitely find those, and we'll put more of this stuff out as time goes by. But the more negative ions that we can consume, the more negative ions that we can be within, the better our health will be. So with that, use your bracelets, charge your bracelets, cleanse your bracelets, your insoles, whatever it is that you have, utilize them, keep them clean, keep them charged, and best of all, you can imprint them with your Cephi. So the mineral content of Cybin is amazing in the way it holds frequency. And that brings me to another thing I'd like to talk about, and that is Cybin. You see a lot of things on the internet, especially in things like Google and Amazon, where you can buy Cybin, and that is not Cybin. They're selling Banestone. Banestone you'll see a lot for massage therapists. They'll use these they're usually a darker black or gray stone that are shaped into blades or tools that they can use on your back. That is Banestone. It is not Cybin. Cybin is a mineral compound that came from an asteroid that hit the northeast provinces of China millions of years ago. It's found in the area now known as Qingdao, China. I've been to that mine. It's the only place in the world that Cybin is found. Now, Cybin doesn't have any out-of-this-world minerals. All of the minerals of Cybin are readily available here on Earth. And when they've been tried to be put together in the same concentrations and ratios as what is naturally in the Cybin meteor, it doesn't have the same effects. We don't know if it's because when it passed through space and through the atmosphere, the radiation effect, we don't know. All we know is that Cybin that comes from that mineral, from that meteor, is the only place that those properties are able to be witnessed and utilized. So be careful when you're buying Cybin. If you read down a little further, it's actually Banestone, and that is not the same. So with that, until next week, have a great week. Okay, Deborah, so what are we going to give away this week?
I don't know. What do you think we should give away?
I don't know. I can almost see it.
I can almost see it too.
Lightwave optical glasses. What do you think?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
These are phenomenal.
All right, so here's what you have to do. And we're going to do it for the first three. We're going to draw three from everybody that comments on this video between tonight and Sunday night about your go-to tip for dealing with your emotions that don't deal with the scanner. In other words, what are your go-to tips to deal with your emotions without having to turn to your scanner? Does that work for you?
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Have a wonderful week.
See you.
See ya.
See, we're going to make Shelby and Kai look really intelligent. What are we giving away?
What are we giving away? That's funny.
No loopies allowed.
I need to leave. I'm always loopy.
There we go. Nice.
You're always loopy.
I'm always loopy.
That's what he said.
Truer words have never been spoken.